Hey, what is up guys, my name is Thewiz. Today we're comparing the MP5 against the Bullfrog. In this video you will see a comparison with stats, best attachments, recoil patterns and more. If this is your first time here, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button as I make tips and tricks in Warzone and much more. Let's look at the weapon stats here. The MP5 has an ADS speed of 200 milliseconds and the Bullfrog comes in at 200 milliseconds as well. Movement speed of the MP5 is 4.98 meters per second and the Bullfrog clocks in at 4.92 meters per second. So when looking at the reload speed, the MP5 reloads in 2.79 seconds and the Bullfrog reloads in 2.34 seconds. The rate of fire for the MP5 is 798 rounds per minute and the Bullfrog comes in at 751 rounds per minute. So as we can see so far, they are pretty similar, but let's see what the damage profile look like. The MP5 does 49 damage to the head and the Bullfrog does 50 damage to the head. That means it's going to take 6 shots to down a fully plated enemy for the MP5 and 5 shots for the Bullfrog. Note that this is damage for the first base damage fall off and the Bullfrog offers up a little more range before dropping off. For the chest damage, the MP5 does 34 damage to the chest and the Bullfrog does 32 damage. It is going to take 8 shots with both weapons to down a fully plated enemy. Note that this is the first damage drop off. When we're looking at the base damage fall off, we can see that the MP5 falls off at 9.5 meters and the Bullfrog falls off at 15 meters. With attachments, we're looking at the MP5 fall off at 10.6 meters and the Bullfrog at 18.9 meters. Let's take a look at the TTK for these weapons. The MP5 has a TTK to the head at 376 milliseconds and the Bullfrog has a TTK to the head at 320. For the chest, the MP5 has a TTK of 526 and the Bullfrog has a TTK of 559. These are all times to down a fully plated enemy. If you hit 2 or 3 headshots with your Bullfrog, you can reduce your time to kill to 479 milliseconds, and if you hit 1, 2 or 3 headshots with your MP5, you can reduce your time to kill to 451. So let's check out the recoil pattern. As you can see here, we're lined up 10 meters from the wall and we have the MP5 on the left and the Bullfrog on the right. As we can see, the MP5 has a much tighter spread and is very easy to control. The Bullfrog has a much more vertical recoil and it goes off to the left as you keep firing. The MP5 requires less recoil control, but with the Bullfrog you should be dragging down a bit when firing for those longer bursts. Let's look at the attachments and I'm going to show you what the differences are after the weapons are fully kitted out. For the MP5 we take the monolithic integral suppressor, 5mW laser, Merc foregrip, 45 round mag and sleight of hand, as they actually fixed this now. For the Bullfrog we take the Grew suppressor, Task Force barrel, Bruiser grip, 65 round mag and KGB skeletal stock. So let's see what weapon changes this actually gives us compared to a stock weapon. For the range, the MP5 gains 12% range and the Bullfrog gains 26%. The ADS speed will always increase as we increase the bullet velocity and range, so here the MP5 goes up to 256 milliseconds and the Bullfrog goes up to 216 milliseconds. For the movement speed, this usually lowers when we put a lot of attachments on the guns, but on the MP5 we are up to only 4.86 meters per second and the Bullfrog actually ends up at 5.09 meters per second. And then for the bullet velocity. Both weapons have a pretty similar bullet velocity in stock form, but the MP5 goes up to 671 meters per second and the Bullfrog goes up to 880 meters per second. Let's jump into my final thoughts on these weapons. To be honest, it all comes down to personal preference with these two weapons. The MP5 is a legend and was one of the first weapons I used in Warzone in combination with the M4. I still think it's very good and I'm so used to this gun at this point and it just feels perfect. The Bullfrog is also very good and I recently started using it more to really get a good feel for the weapon. Personally, I will always prefer the MP5 as it's just one of the best SMGs in my opinion. Since we're using them at such close range, it all comes down to the TTKs and how you feel when you're using it. Let me know in the comments what you prefer. That is it for this video guys. If you liked the video, please smash that like button and I'll see you all in the next one.